It is quite possible that this is the most useful video that I can ever make. We make one every year. I have gone through the entirety of Football Manager's database, personally offered transfers to over 250 potential candidates for this list, and boiled down a collection of the top 20 players that are reliably signable under $5 million, 19 years or below, and potentially on the high range, be as good as Karim Benzema. So hit it. Videos like this obviously take a lot of work. I did have you guys keep me company. I hung out in the subscriber section of our Discord, which if you want to be a part of, you have to subscribe on Twitch, which the streams are down in the description. You can also, of course, the Discord's got over 13,000 people in it. It's a great place to hang out and talk FM. You can hop in there. And if you appreciate this kind of effort to get you the best players to sign, we really appreciate it if you subscribe, because it allows us to put teams together to do more fun things like this and still get you a video every couple of days. So without further ado, the top 20 players that you can sign for $5 million or less that have outstanding potential in Football Manager. But come on, you know me. We're starting with 5 honorable mentions, players that I feel like you should know, but they weren't quite good enough to make the list. First, the center mid from Inter named Lucien Agume. He would have made the list. He's got really good current ability. He's 19 though, so he's a little old, and I could only sign him for 5.5 million. And when I say I could only sign him for 5.5, I started a career as Man City and personally negotiated a transfer deal for each one of these players, and a lot of others that didn't make the list. But for each one of these players, to make sure that if you're at a club that big or smaller, that is the highest price that you should have to pay at the start of the game. There's also a 17-year-old attacking midfielder named Chucky at Real Valladolid. He's got a release clause of 2.5 million and is a very good deal. There's another attacking midfielder from Fluminense in Brazil. His name is Arthur, and you can sign him for 4.3 million. So he's on the expensive side. That's why he didn't make the list. And speaking of on the expensive side, and that's why they didn't make the list, there's a very good Russian wing, Sergei Penyaev. He actually has 89 current ability, which is incredibly high for a 16-year-old, but he cost exactly $5 million, which is just the most expensive possible. And then on the other end of that spectrum is a striker that if you are managing in the English lower leagues, you should always sign. His name is Leighton Stewart. He has 76 current ability at 18, which is awful. Current ability is on a scale of 1 to 200. Karim Benzema's up at 180, just to give you an idea of the scale. Stewart, not good. But because he's 18 and has low current ability, he's available for only 850,000. So I feel like you should know who he is, because if you pick him up and let him play, his potential range is 140 to 170, which is the same for all but one player on this list. If you're sitting there like, what he said, they would all be Karim Benzema. 170 is the same current ability level as Toni Kroos. These guys can be incredibly good. Quick aside to explain potential ranges. Young players in Football Manager are very often given a range of potential, so that when you start a save, it falls somewhere between 140 and 170. That is true for everybody here. One player that I will identify as 150 to 180. Their potential ability could fall anywhere within those 30 points, and it's locked at the start of the game. This means that even though I can guarantee these players will always be at least pretty good, 140 is still a really darn good player. That's an ability level that has players like Jonathan David, Ben Godfrey, and Tariq Lamptey added. So those are still really good, solid players for under 5 million at the very worst scenario. But to number 20, a 16-year-old Ivorian at Atletico Bilbao who can play all the way from center mid back to center back. His name is Junior Bita. Bita rests at a current ability of 80, and you can see his attribute distribution. There's some good things and then some obvious holes, but at just 16 years old with all that potential, he's basically a wet pile of clay. It's $1.6 million release clause that Atletico Bilbao has to accept if you want to sign him, which is why he sneaks in at number 20 ahead of some of these other guys. And when they're 16, that kind of versatility, you can train him into any one of those 3 spots super comfortably. Honestly, I love filming videos like this. We just have so much great information to get to you. Number 19 is a striker. So here you go. From Sporting, his name is Rodrigo Ribeiro. He's also 16. His current ability is also pretty darn low, but he's lanky. He's going to get taller. He has a decent athletic base, and his dribbling, finishing, first touch already has a strong base to it. So does his passing and vision. And he only costs 1.1 million to Man City, which means he'll probably cost less to you. But the trick with these guys that are at decent clubs already is that they might not actually want to join you, and so you're going to have to nitpick the guys that do. This is all dependent on the hidden attributes of the player. All I know is that they were at least willing to join me. There are a lot of 16-year-olds that aren't even willing to move clubs at all, so that's a very good sign that they're willing to move in the first place. But if you're looking to go to a league that's not Spain or Portugal, how about number 18? It's a 16-year-old Swiss winger named Mamadou Jaita. Jaita is still on a youth contract, but I wouldn't recommend going with the approach to sign option, because when you do that and you accept all this stuff, there is an automatic compensation that's agreed to, which could include up to $1.2 million in clauses, but it will also include different sell-on fees. So if you sell him on later, then you could end up having to pay 25% of that to Basel, which you obviously don't want to do. You want to go in and negotiate where are we? You want to go in and negotiate a transfer for Mamadou Jaita, and when you do that, you can get him for $700,000. He's 16, his current ability is already good. Just to prove to you that I'm not making this up. Or maybe I'm gonna get out negotiated this time. Or I just go to 700,000 and they, well, like I said, I negotiated him for $700,000. Dang it. My first negotiating skills were better. He's got the classic feel of a winger. You could turn him into a striker, whatever. He's 16. We're really aging up for number 17, though, and we're picking out somebody that actually has got a lot of talent to back it up now. This first couple of guys are really prospects. Even if you're at a pretty low level, they're probably not going to come in and make a big impact right away. This guy can. Attacking midfielder Mateus França, who is in the Flamengo youth teams in Brazil. He's 17. As you can see, he's a great athlete. He's got a good feel for passing the ball. He's not particularly intelligent, but he has a great holy trinity. I think he's a prime candidate to transition to one of those winger positions, or maybe just turn him into a center forward, somebody that doesn't need to use their brain as much, but he clearly has a bucket full of talent for a guy that's 17. Most expensive guy on the list so far, though, but he only comes in at a cool $3 million. Still a great purchase. Number 16 takes us to one of the hits. I feel like I've put this guy in so many videos, but he is staying at Altenordu, which means he's staying right here. It's the classic Enganche Burak Ince. I am likely more athletic than this guy is, but he is incredibly technical and has a decent floor for intelligence that you can build on, considering he's still only 17 somehow. He apparently never ages. After intense negotiations and what will certainly be a decent wage you have to pay to him because he's coming from Turkey, we only got him for 1.9 million. He won't run with the ball, but he can dissect a defense like few other young players in the game. He even has tries killer balls off him. The next bargain at number, what are we at? The next bargain at number 15 is the only center back that got anywhere near the list. That makes sense. Center backs usually come into their own later in their careers. That's been proved down by analytics, which means this Christian Mosquera guy at Valencia, who's 17 and is already rated this well, is going to be a beast in real life and in the game. Mosquera comes in at the highest current ability of anyone we've looked at so far. Comes in at 100, and he's only 17 years old. But Valencia is obviously one of the biggest clubs that we're going to be interacting with in this, and I was barely able to get his transfer fee down to 5 million. What I would definitely recommend if you want to sign Mosquera is put a 50 league appearance thing in there for like 3 million and sign him for 4 million up front. You probably end up having to pay a little more than 5 million. I had to try the negotiation multiple times to get it down to 5. That is the lowest they will go, but he's the only center back, and outside of the price thing, he's a beast, and it's right there, top end of the range. He would be higher if it wasn't for the price, because this in a 17-year-old center back is all you could possibly want. He's so balanced, except the fact that he can't see. Buy him some glasses and maybe his vision will go up. Time to get on your horse and head back to Portugal, though, for number 14, Dario Assogo at Sporting. This guy is a classic box-to-box midfielder. He can pass the ball, decent athlete. He's got traits like runs with the ball through the center, and he also has a trait dives into tackles, right, and switches the ball to the opposite flank. Those are from 3 completely different arenas, and he can do all 3. He has 90 current ability at just 16, but he is on the high side at 4.6 million, so he might be out of your price range if you're hunting for the real small game. Fortunately, he's still young enough that he hasn't built up the reputation to be noticed, because this guy could step into most League One teams and be a super reliable everyday option at 16 years old. And guess what? We're taking a huge trip to literally the exact same club. Number 13 is another central midfielder in the Sporting B team named Guilherme Santos. There's just something about this kid. His attribute distribution, I freaking Love it. He's fairly professional, just 16 years of age. Tries killer balls, plays 1-2s, and dictates tempo. He is an A-type personality playmaker. He's a playmaker that can score goals and can advance the ball on himself, or trying killer balls often can advance the ball to other players on your team. He's got a good holy trinity if you wanted to turn him into a more forward player, decent athleticism, already crazy intelligent for a 16-year-old, and as you need to, he can pass. The price, just 2.2 million, much cheaper than his counterpart. The downside, can't play defense. That's fine. Number 12 is our only goalkeeper. And guess what? He's in Portugal. His name is Andre Gomes. He plays for Benfica. He is a very balanced goalkeeper who's going to be able to play a sweeper keeping role. Absolutely no problem. But goalkeepers develop slowly, and he's only 16. Current ability checks in at 90, and the price, modest for the list at $3.1 million. But if you need a bargain goalkeeper that's in the 140 to 170 potential range, this is your guy. He's the only one. Which brings us to number 11, somebody that you probably would have never imagined you would be able to get for under 5 million, but this is why that I went and tried over 250 people, a lot of them players at big clubs like Gabriel Vidovic. Because Gabriel Vidovic is just a tremendous spine player, up and down the middle of the park, attacking midfield, striker. He has athleticism, wild creativity, and already has excellent control of the ball at 17 years of age. And even though he's at Bayern and has a current ability of 103 at 17, he comes in just under 5 million, $4.6 million negotiated. Not just that, he's also willing to leave. This could be one of the tougher gets if you're watching this list, but that's why he's at 11 and not higher. Vidovic is a tricky player, but so is number 10, Chaka Traore. He is a classic inverted winger off the left, and he is an incredibly tricky dribbler. Bit of a project player outside of that, but he's only 1.2 million. He is a 90 current ability already at 16 because of how ridiculously talented he is at controlling the ball, and with that tries tricks, that is not an easy player trait to get, and it is something that makes them very dangerous and, well, tricky. He needs to work on adding some athleticism if you do sign him, but the Ivorian from AC Milan is a great get at 16 to develop into a star winger. My heavens, is he cheap. But number 9 isn't nearly as pigeonholed. We're going to Iceland. Well, not really. We're going to Copenhagen, where an Icelandic player named Isak Bergman Johannesson is dwelling in multiple places at the same time, because this is the single most versatile guy on the list. You can turn him into a striker, a central midfielder, a deep-lying playmaker, a winger on both sides, or maybe even a left back, all of which he would do rather comfortably because he's just 18. He's a senior international. He's already playing at Copenhagen. He's freaking resolute. He's got a good feel for arriving late in the area, tries first-time shots, and so he's better at finishing than you would initially think. And not to mention, he can freaking play anywhere. All of that for the cool price of 4 million from Denmark's Bully. I don't know how Iceland continues to produce good players, but they do. Actually, I do know how. They invested in coaching, made sure that every town of at least a couple thousand people had a field. It's all really interesting stuff. You should, I've got some books that you should read. Number 8, Sassuolo's Ghanaian striker, Brian O'Day. He's been popping up on these lists for like a year now, but he's still a good get. He's on loan at Crotone. He's 18 years old now, but as you can see, his ability as a winger and as a striker is rounding into form. He's intelligent, he's creative, controls the ball well, and is certainly an explosive athlete with an unnatural feel for passing the ball, which you often don't see in young wingers, or young strikers for that matter. And particularly tantalizing, he'll only cost you 1.9 million. Do you know what we've been missing? Well, we're going to find at number 7. Freaking fullbacks. We've got one in Gonçalo Esteves. Guess where he plays? Sporting. You're getting good at this. This guy is a natural, complete wingback type player, balanced between going forward, athleticism, intelligence, offense. Defense is his weakest part, but he's also only 17. He's 17 with a current ability of 90 as a complete wingback who costs, get this, 675 $100,000. He's already got all the player traits you'd want. He plays 1-2s, gets forward whenever possible, and runs with the ball down the right side of the field. He is a classic, complete wingback that you should sign. Why would you not? That's it. We've spent too long in Portugal for number 6. We're going to Argentina, to Colón de Santa Fe for Facundo Farias. He's an attacking midfielder that can comfortably play all 4 positions up in the attacking part of the field. He sucks at defense, so don't play him any deeper than that. We negotiated this guy's transfer a bunch of times. We got anywhere from like 1 to 5 million. It's a complete mess trying to figure out exactly what you can pay for this guy reliably. They seem to have a different mood every time you talk to them. But his current ability, as you can probably tell, somebody that is incredibly technical, controls the ball well, hits the ball well into the box, has a nice burst, is smart, is 18. He has a 123 current ability, which means he is going to reach his potential almost every single game. And he will be signable under 5 million, likely for a year or two. For some reason, he sits around in Argentina for a little while before making the jump, unless you, of course, initiate that jump. But as we enter the top 5, we will now run into the person who has my favorite name on this list, which is a very important award to give away. Williot Swedberg. This guy is real. He plays for Hammarby. And did I mention, he is a model citizen. A model. That's insane. He's 17. He's a model citizen. I don't even know how you can tell that young. But for those that don't know, that's the best personality in the game. He's going to develop like a madman and be the influence of, well, I was going to say presidents, but he's going to have a very stately influence on your locker room. He's either footed, he's intelligent, balanced athletically, and will get better, has good control over the ball and can pass, not an appalling finisher. He's also 6'1". I know what you're thinking. How much is he going to cost? We got him for 4.5 million. The reason he's not higher is he is on the expensive side for the list. Hammarby know what they have. And what they have is one of the best bargain midfielders in the game. For number 4, we actually go to Real Madrid. I know this is not somewhere you thought we would be going anytime soon. It is for the one player that is 150 to 180. I know you probably figured that that person would be at the top of the list. They're not, because that player is Julian Guerrero. Julian Guerrero is going to be the most polarizing player on this list. His current ability is the lowest on the list at 74. He is 17, and as you can see right now, not a tremendous player. He's not bad, right? His decision making and composure are terrible, which is bad for a central player, but he has a decent passing, decent athleticism. He is working with higher potential than anybody else on this list. He just is. He has a whole range. 33% of the time, he will have higher potential than anybody else in this list could possibly have. Now, you probably want to sign him in a position where he'll be playing constantly, or at least be in the rotation close to immediately, because he needs a lot of playing time and some pretty good facilities to actually reach that potential, but he has it. And Real Madrid doesn't necessarily value this guy. You can get him for 4.5 million, like under 5 million, to have a player that on the high side could be as good as Karim Benzema. That's the deal of a lifetime. He has what you can't teach: potential and really good creativity. He's a wolf in sheep's clothing. As seems to always be the case with Football Manager. Number 3, we are sticking with attacking midfielders and Racing de Santander's Pablo Torre. This guy's 18. He's playing in the 3rd division of Spain. Just helped his club get promoted from the 4th division of Spain by playing 24 matches at 17. Even though he's small, he's got professionalism and is an incredible passer with the ability to separate and the ability to be creative. That agility and the flair is what I'm talking about. He's a darn good player at 18 with a current ability of 114. And perhaps even most enticingly, because he's in the Spanish 3rd division, we signed this guy for $1.4 million. That's it. And unlike some of the other guys, especially at the beginning of this list, this is a plug and play player for like 95% of teams in Football Manager. Would love to have this guy. I would love to have this guy at Floridsdorfer. Write that down. Just kidding. We don't have the money. Did I mention he's either footed? But he's still behind number 2, who is one of the players that's just going to blow up on this year's Football Manager. His name is Kasper Kozlowski. He's Polish. He plays for Pogoń Szczecin, and he was part of a team that, well, they finished 3rd, was the highest finish in like the last 15 years for this club, and they're headed to Europe this year. He also has 5 caps for Poland. Did I mention he's 17? This dude's kicking the ball to Robert Lewandowski on a daily basis in national team training, and you probably never heard of him, and he's not old enough to vote in the United States anyways. He's got a really tough personality, resilient, which means he can handle pressure, which means he can handle a quick move up to a bigger league. Good passer, very intelligent, not unathletic, either footed, dreamboat, $2.2 million. That's it. You better move on this one, though, because you will not be the only team aware of the fact that Kasper Kozlowski is available, very available. Man, it's been a lot of midfielders, so it's only fitting that we end on a striker. Ha ha ha! It's a familiar name, but for some ungodly reason, Matias Arezzo is still in Uruguay playing for River Plate Montevideo, and as long as he's there, he's going to be the best bargain in the game. He is an absurdly balanced striker. He is almost a triple threat. He can use both feet well. He's got a great burst and some decent athleticism. He's got the first touch to have tries first time shots that makes him a very lethal finisher. He's 18, so he's had enough time to develop to be an immediate plug-and-play player. The only downside I can think of is I tried to sign him in the Premier League in the network save that we're doing on Twitch, where I play against Work the Space, Dr. Benji, and Lelujo. Would recommend checking it out every Thursday. And he couldn't get a work permit. That's the only downside, because not only is he arguably the most talented player that we've seen on this entire list, he cost $850,000. And honestly, I feel like when I was Wolves, I got him for less. He's a bona fide, no holds barred stud. You will make money on him 100 times out of 100. If you sign him and he comes out with 140 potential, he's still good right now. He would then get better and you'd sell him for a profit because you are buying him for the footballing equivalent of peanuts. Peanuts. And just because he's a household name doesn't mean he's still not the best hidden gem in the game that you can buy for under $5 million. It took a long time to put this together, so I hope you guys really enjoyed the list. I hope it was helpful. There are 10 to 15 other names that met basically every criteria. I think I'm going to drop those into the Discord or something, so just remind me of that on a stream, and I will do that, and then make sure that you're in the Discord, I guess, for when that whole document is posted. Cool. I'll see you in another video. Have a wonderful day. Happy FMing. Wait, no.